There's a certain type of man a woman just can't get out of her head. And let's be honest, he's rare. That's because most men either fold themselves up to be more likable or go overboard trying to impress. But here's the part nobody really talks about. It's not kindness that unsettles women, it's the lack of control. When they can't influence you, that's what shakes them. And the kind of man they have the hardest time controlling? It's not just someone smart or sensitive, it's someone emotionally sharp. Someone who's composed, deliberate, and quietly confident. You see, women aren't intimidated by a man who shows emotion. What unnerves them is a man who understands exactly what he's feeling, why he's feeling it, and refuses to let anyone weaponize those feelings against him. They don't fear the emotional man. They fear the man who stays grounded no matter what. The man who doesn't panic, doesn't chase, doesn't scramble to please just to keep the peace. He sees the dynamic for what it is, and he plays it with more clarity and control than she ever expected. That kind of man can't be pulled around emotionally. He can't be guilt-tripped, manipulated, or cornered into reacting. He doesn't blow up when pushed. He doesn't plead when ignored. He observes. He adapts. He makes calculated moves. That's what real emotional intelligence looks like. And when that's paired with grounded masculine composure, it becomes potent, almost dangerous. In this video, we're going to unpack how you can become that man. The one who doesn't get pulled into emotional traps, who doesn't explode over nothing, and who leaves an unforgettable impact. We're going to walk through 6 key traits that define emotionally intelligent men, what makes them magnetic, rare, and powerful in the eyes of women. You'll get practical insight into how to think, how to respond, how to move, so you become the kind of man who can't be swayed and who always shows up as a surprise. Don't skip a step. Each trait builds on the next. Miss one, and you stay stuck in the same old cycles. Master them, and you redefine how women experience you at a core level. Let's dive in. First trait, you spot emotional games, and you don't play them. Here's a scenario many couples face. You're in a relationship, and suddenly, she starts acting cold. She pulls back affection. Maybe it's a test, maybe it's not. Either way, most men respond in 2 predictable ways. They either panic and start over-explaining, pleading, trying to fix things immediately, or they emotionally shut down and mirror that coldness. But the emotionally intelligent man? He does neither. He takes a breath. He notices the shift. He watches it without jumping to conclusions or reacting out of fear. And then he acts with clarity. That's the difference. Women don't fear that kind of stillness because it's mean or detached. They fear it because it's strong. It shows her you're not easily baited. You don't respond to emotional strings being pulled. You recognize the pattern for what it is. That doesn't make you distant. It makes you centered. As Machiavelli might say, the man who masters himself is far harder to shake than the one who reacts on impulse. The man who keeps his composure? He stands out. While others raise their voices, over-explain, or fight to prove their point, he stays still, calm, in control. Not because he's indifferent, but because he refuses to get sucked into drama he didn't start. And when a woman sees that kind of restraint, she doesn't see weakness. She sees strength she can't bend. Second trait, you're not begging for validation because you've already claimed your own worth. Emotionally intelligent men don't chase love like they're gasping for air. They appreciate it. They're open to it. But they're not desperate because they already understand their value. Picture this. You're on a first date. She makes a comment that feels like a jab, maybe about your career, your looks, or something in your past. Most guys laugh nervously, brush it off, and hope they didn't just lose points. But the man with emotional depth? He gives a calm smile. He pauses, and then says something like, "Interesting take." And that's it. No defending. No long explanations. No flinching. That kind of self-control? It's magnetic. It shows one powerful truth. Your self-worth isn't up for debate. You've already chosen yourself. And this is where Machiavelli's wisdom comes into play, wisdom that few men ever truly grasp. The man who constantly seeks approval? He's bound to serve. In other words, the moment you let her opinion define your worth, you've already handed over control. But the man who's grounded in who he is, he doesn't need applause to feel enough. He doesn't argue just to be understood. He doesn't perform to earn attention. He simply is. And that's what makes him unforgettable. If she tosses out a comment meant to test him, he doesn't bite. He lets it drift by, like a breeze he barely notices. Why? Because he's not in the business of chasing her validation. He's already given that to himself. And that kind of quiet confidence? It radiates. Women pick up on it instantly. Because while other men try to impress, he simply exists, fully, unapologetically. He's grounded, clear-headed, steady. He's not trying to charm his way in. He's not performing for approval. He walks in as his authentic self and lets her decide what she thinks about it. That's not ego, it's inner stability. And that's exactly why she remembers him. He reads her without trying to own or steer her. See, for a woman who's used to emotional control, who's used to pulling strings, it can be unsettling, even scary, to meet a man who sees straight through her. But not to judge, not to manipulate, just to understand. Picture a relationship that's gone a few months deep. She's acting off snippy, withdrawn, cold replies. Most men? They either start defending themselves or back off and shut down. But you? You stay steady. You ask her once, with calm curiosity, is something bothering you? She shrugs it off, says no. You don't push. You nod. You give her space. And when the moment passes and the storm clears, you circle back. Not with blame, not with pressure, just calm presence. That kind of patience? It catches her off guard. Because now she realizes she can't hijack the moment with emotion. She can't spark chaos to regain control. You won't fight just to prove a point. You're not on defense. You're playing chess, 3 moves ahead. And that level of calm clarity? It's rare. And yes, it's unsettling. Not because you're cold, but because you've taken away the one tool she subconsciously relied on. Emotional fog. And when you replace that fog with quiet transparency, it changes the whole game. But most people? They're not ready for that kind of clear atmosphere. 4th trait. You handle conflict without turning up the volume. Let's talk about a common scene in relationships. An argument flares up. Emotions start boiling. Voices climb. Accusations start flying. But not from you. You stay composed. You slow your speech. You pause before you answer. You ask questions instead of pointing fingers. You shape the emotional tone of the room. And that unsettles people who feed on drama. Because no matter how loud they get, they can't pull you into their chaos. You stay rooted. You don't win arguments by yelling louder. You win by maintaining your own emotional command. And if Machiavelli were whispering in your ear, he'd say this: a prince must know how not to be good when the situation requires it. Translated into emotional mastery, you know when to be gentle, when to be firm, and when it's time to walk away quietly with zero explanation. You don't crave disorder to feel alive. You don't need emotional fireworks to feel something. You carry your own peace. And people who thrive on dysfunction? They'll either rise up to meet your level or fade away on their own. Either way, you're not the one losing. 5th trait. You're not scared of her emotions. You guide them and become the place where she feels safest. This is where real emotional intelligence becomes impossible to ignore. You're dating someone new. She's intense, maybe even unpredictable at times. She challenges you, pushes boundaries, throws tests your way just to see what you'll do. Most men either shrink away from the tension or try to go toe-to-toe with her energy, hoping to match her heat. But you don't flinch. You regulate. You hold her gaze without hesitation. You acknowledge her emotions without caving to them. You remain steady, calm, and slowly, she begins to shift. Because your energy doesn't just hold, it anchors. Your emotional control becomes something she naturally gravitates toward. It becomes her sense of safety. Most women are used to setting the emotional tone in a relationship. But when she encounters a man who isn't rattled by her intensity, a man who can walk straight into the storm and still lead with calm, clarity, and kindness, it hits different. It's not about overpowering her. It's not about submitting either. It's about strength that invites her to exhale, to trust, to soften. And that right there? That's what unnerves her. Because she can't command it. She can't manipulate it. But deep down, she craves it. 6th trait. You can walk away without chaos, without clinging. This is where emotional intelligence reaches its highest level. The ability to walk away when something no longer serves you, without throwing punches, without needing to burn it all down. Whether it's a marriage, a serious relationship, or something casual, there's always a moment where the connection shifts, where values no longer align, where the energy isn't right anymore. And most people, they break. They point fingers. They spiral into drama. But the emotionally intelligent man, he faces the truth head-on. He mourns the ending in private if he needs to, but he doesn't let that pain control his next move. He moves forward with calm, collected certainty. He doesn't slam doors. He doesn't fight to win the breakup. He just walks away with his integrity untouched. And that shakes people. Because when a woman sees a man who can detach without a meltdown, who doesn't plead, doesn't lash out, doesn't chase, it hits her hard. She realizes she never had emotional ownership over him. He wasn't there out of need. He was there by choice. And the moment that choice no longer made sense, he let go with grace. That kind of self-possession leaves an impression. It changes the way she sees men forever. It reframes what it means to be dangerous, not violent, not loud, but deeply grounded and completely in control of one's own emotional world. You don't need to raise your voice to earn respect. You don't need to beg to be loved. And you sure as hell don't need to manipulate to keep someone's attention. What you need is presence, inner stillness, a mind you command, not one that betrays you at the first sign of fear. A heart you've made peace with, not one that controls you behind the scenes. A voice that cuts through the noise speaks with intention, not volume. Because when you've learned to master your emotions, not suppress them, but truly understand them, when your words are chosen, not triggered, and your presence is calm, not chaotic, you stop being just another man. You become a presence. Subtle, but impossible to ignore. Not loud, but deeply felt. Not predictable, but sharp in every move. Not cold, but powerful in a way that comes from discipline, not drama. And here's the truth no one dares to say out loud. A man like that doesn't just enter a room. He grounds it. He doesn't chase attention, he naturally draws it in. He doesn't posture or perform. Because simply being himself is more than enough to command attention and respect. Women don't fear this kind of man because he's manipulative or aggressive. They fear him and want him because he evokes something real, something they can't fabricate, a strange but beautiful blend of safety and edge, comfort and challenge, boundaries wrapped in warmth, a presence that doesn't create chaos, but cuts right through it. A man like that disrupts old patterns. He breaks through emotional games without even playing. He has a way of pulling truth to the surface, even in people who were trying to avoid it. And that's rare. That's powerful. That's needed. So forget about trying to be liked. Forget about trying to be picked. Focus on becoming solid, clear, self-aware. Awaken your own life. Be the kind of man who watches more than he speaks, who listens, not to reply, but to understand. Protect your peace like it's sacred. Share it only with those who've proven they can hold it with care. You don't have to be flawless, just consistent, patient, guided by something deeper than a need to be seen. So take your time, build in silence, refine your voice, get brutally clear on what you stand for, master your energy, and instead of adjusting to the world, let the world adjust to you. Because a man who has fully claimed himself doesn't just succeed, he leads. He reigns. If something here struck a chord with you, don't just let it sit in your mind. Drop a comment, even a short one. It'll help lock in the lesson. And maybe, just maybe, it'll be what someone else needed to hear today. Hit that like button if this resonated. And share it with someone you feel needs this message. Trust your gut. We're all just trying to get stronger, clearer, more rooted. Let's build minds that don't fold under pressure. Let's build minds that don't break.